3, 2, 1. Stand ready for my arrival, worm. Now's not a good time. Oppose me and you'll die. You don't understand. All I've wanted to do is hit something as hard as I can. Show me your Viltrumite heart. I'm invincing it. I'm invincing it. Invincing it so good.
Stop. Okay.
I'm not proud of that one, but
Welcome to the One of the Artists podcast, episode 12. Right?
yes.
Episode 12.
Damn, you're stealing the intro?
Dude, no, that was the intro. I'm just introducing. Okay, wait. No. That was the intro. But I'm going to be introducing the podcast.
Fair.
We are back for episode 12 after a long time away.
Months. Actually, it's probably only been like a couple months because Wicked, Nosferatu wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it just feels like a long time though.
Lots changed. A lot has changed. You're an adult now?
True. I am legal. Ladies.
Stop.
Joking. No, I'm joking. I don't know. I don't know if this has been the longest break, but it's felt like the longest break in between episodes. I think it's just because we've both been pretty busy.
I feel like we've had a longer break in between this because
Mm,
there was a big gap between. I think we did like Terrifier,
yeah,
and then it wasn't until like winter time. Yeah, that was many months.
true. Okay.
So yeah, if we're sounding like a little not as comfortable, that's probably why.
Yeah, we're getting back into the flow of things.
Yeah.
I mean, things
But-
have changed, but your intros are still horrendous. So
Okay, well, you're not giving me anything to work with. You're not coming in with your own intros. Like, what do you contribute here?
okay, well, first of all, I'm the best member with the best takes, so that's what I'm contributing. And second of all, I could come in with intros, but they would be just so much better that I'd completely like demotivate you from making intros ever
That
again.
is
So
the biggest cap I've ever heard. Remember when it was your turn to do an intro and you were like, couldn't think of anything creative.
dude, because you didn't give me time. You told me like 10 minutes before recording that,
No,
like,
I-
oh, you gotta do an intro. It's like you premeditate these things for like I don't know how long. But obviously not a long
You think
time,
I was-
but more time than I have.
You think I was cooking this one that I just did for hours?
More than the fucking 5 minutes you give me before we start recording. I'm just saying,
I'm
bro,
invincing it. I'm invincing it.
I'd be
There will be some context to that later, but today is an exciting episode because we're talking about not one, but two Steven Yeun projects that have been released this year, which is very exciting because he's definitely
He's the GOAT.
Yeah, he's the GOAT. He's definitely one of my favorite actors working right now. I think he just has like so much range as an
Yeah, for
actor.
sure.
And
He's Korean American.
yeah, Korean American represent. But I feel like every year there's at least one, if I'm not mistaken, Steven Yeun project that is always worth checking out, whether it's like Beef, Invincible, or
Mickey 17.
yeah, a film we are going to talk about.
And yeah.
Do
Shout
you
out
want to
Beef.
kind of? Yeah.
We're not going to talk about Beef, but that's a fucking amazing show.
It is an amazing show,
I mean, a lot of people have seen it already, but for those who haven't, definitely check that out.
and it's coming back.
Oh yeah, it is coming back.
Yep,
But without Steven Yeun, so
and it's breaking away from it being a representation
Asian American.
Asian Americans. Yeah, whatever.
We'll see about that. We can talk about that whenever that comes out.
No, I'm interested. They have a good cast going,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, would you like to introduce the film that we mentioned?
Yeah. We'll be talking about the highly anticipated 2025 sci-fi black comedy film by Bong Joon-ho, Mickey 17.
Hell yeah.
So this is, like I said earlier, this is a sci-fi black comedy drama film starring Robert Pattinson and
Naomi
Naomi
Aki.
Aki, yeah. from The End of the Fucking World, if you've seen that show. Goated show.
That's right.
Yeah. Steven Yeun, Tony Collette, and Mark Ruffalo. And this film follows this guy named Mickey who, well, it takes place in like this like weird sci-fi world where you have like Earth and then you have these people that are like in space on a ship,
Mhm.
sort of like looking for, I guess, a new planet. I don't know. They're trying to like start a new society basically. And it follows this guy named Mickey, played by Robert Pattinson, who has signed up for the Expendables program, which basically means that he's sent on these missions where he's very likely to die. So they've sort of like altered his body so that he can be like revived
Mhm.
and basically have like clones made with him with his memory intact and physical thing intact. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you did a good job summarizing it basically.
Thank you.
Yeah,
tried really.
did you mention who it's by?
Yeah. Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, so this is his
Another goat. Korean goat.
yeah, this is his follow-up to Parasite, of course, which is
Yeah.
I'd say like a modern day masterpiece at this point.
One of my favorite movies
I feel
probably
like
ever.
a lot of people are kind of like looking back in it and being like, "Oh, it was all right. Like it received all this Academy attention. It's a little overhyped, but
No, dude.
no, I see that.
Hype is real.
Yeah, that retroactivity like mindset. I see it a lot, but I really don't think it applies there.
Dude, it's definitely because I feel like with art, like experiencing it and like thinking back on it are like two different things.
Yeah,
I feel they can have like two opposite effects where like you think back on something and you can either think it's better than it actually was or worse than it actually was. Like it's rare that you find something as good as it is when you're thinking back on it.
yeah. But
To-
yeah, the reason I brought up Parasite is coming off of like such a huge Oscar win and like moment for Korean cinema. I feel like obviously the expectation for a filmmaker's next film is going to be super high.
Yeah.
And it's almost like an unreachable standard that you've kind of set because you've made something so notable, so well done.
So impactful too.
But I really enjoyed Mickey 17. I think it's a very interesting project to tackle post Parasite.
Yeah.
And I really admire that he took still a very larger than life story, but definitely like smaller scale. And that's what he decided to do. He didn't feel like he needed to top himself in any way or like outdo Parasite.
Yeah.
It's just like he was compelled or like intrigued by the story and wanted to share it. So,
Yeah, I'm very glad we didn't get Parasite 2 because I mean, I don't think he's the type of director to like pull that kind of shit. But
No.
yeah, it's very like a movie like that. It's very hard to know where to go, and I'm glad he sort of strayed really far away from. Actually, I wouldn't say he strayed completely in a new direction, but I guess he approached a lot of what he was doing in Parasite in a very different way.
Yeah. Back to I guess like the retroactively looking back at stuff. Like I feel like that kind of plays into how people went in looking at Mickey 17 is like, oh, comparing it so hard to Parasite and
Yeah.
expecting like a movie on that level.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's an unreachable standard. And I feel like it's kind of being done dirty because people are looking at it that way. And I just really urge people to view this as its own thing.
Yeah, because it's such a different movie. And I think oh yeah, I kind of do hate the idea like when someone makes something great and then the thing they followed up isn't the same quality. I kind of hate like the excuse of oh, but like their previous thing was great. But I think with here, like Parasite was such like a monumental thing. Like to expect him to like follow it up with something better is completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very worthy follow up to Parasite in terms of quality.
Yeah, and I kind of want to move away from talking about it in comparison to Parasite.
Yeah.
But I thought what really stands out, I mean, of course, about Mickey 17 is a lot of the time with Bong Joon-ho movies, it's about the characters for sure, but it's usually not anchored by like one specific main character.
Yeah.
Like there's usually multiple pieces at play, and that can be argued, sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like in Mickey 17, it's very much anchored by Robert Pattinson as the titular Mickey.
I mean, it's literally named after him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And goes without saying, he does an amazing job in this movie.
Oh yeah.
He has to play technically multiple versions of himself, or
but we
it
only
is
really see like two of them.
yeah.
For most
I
of
mean,
the
there's
movie.
two main ones that you see, and they are different versions of each other in many ways. But yeah, we'll get into it more as we talk about it.
It's kind of interesting. I've been watching Severance, and I'm just now starting to see like there's some parallels between this story and that, just in terms of like people playing two versions of themselves.
Yeah,
I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a super interesting concept, just like baseline. It brings a lot of very interesting moral questions and like
for sure.
questions about the idea of your existence and like your consciousness.
I think that's what stood out the most to me when we first watched this movie,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, based on the trailer, I was very much expecting like a, I don't know. It definitely seemed like it could have fallen into the trap of being like a montage type movie where we just see a bunch of different Mickeys like dying in different quirky ways.
Yeah,
But
too slapsticky.
yeah, but I'm very glad they focused on this like conflict of the two Mickeys existing at once, because
Mhm.
I think the implications of that were just so interesting, and like something that sort of like was nagging in my mind like throughout the whole movie, because the question of like living as a clone that can just be like, that you can just be like brought back to life basically,
Mhm.
and then that completely changing once there's two of you existing at the same time. That to me was a really, really interesting part of this movie.
Yeah, because I mean, although they are both Mickey, it's very obvious that it's like something along, I guess, the process of him being cloned
Mhm.
brought out certain sides of his personality, like
Yeah.
aggressive versus more calm and like collected.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which is super cool to me. And it just, of course, it gives Robert Pattinson a lot of freedom. And I like to see my boy Robbie,
Yeah.
doing crazy, zany things. And this is the movie, if any, to see him do those things.
Sorry, my voice is like giving out on me. Hold on, we can cut.
Someone's chopped today.
Dude, I don't know what it is. Like when I just exist normally, like I'm fine, but once we start recording, I'm like falling apart.
Decaying.
Yeah,
Dude, but maybe it's just
Dude.
you have a shitty immune system because you be getting sick way too often.
dude.
I think you need to be Mickey'd
Bro, I'm
every
just
now
saying.
and then.
No, I found out the reason why I get sick. It's definitely because of the 5-second rule and how I follow it
Oh,
so
yeah.
religiously, because I don't like wasting food.
You're a weirdo. Anyway,
It's
though.
never in like a gross way. Like if it's obvious like the food is disgusting when it's touched the floor, like I'm not gonna eat it. But if it's just like it just scrapes the floor, I pick it up
He's trying
instantly.
so hard to defend
And I
himself.
see no marks that are noticeable. I'm gonna fucking eat that shit, bro. Okay, what were we talking about?
You know, this is why like we're disgusting humans, because people like you.
Dude,
We are talking about Mickey.
germs are literally like a social construct, bro. Like germs are like placebo. Like if you don't think they exist, they're not gonna harm your body.
Oh, actually, good segue, because a lot of the Mickeys that are expended are due to like testing germs and like testing
Oh yeah, like diseases,
different diseases.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, classic. It's what our government would do if we had this power in our hands. We're not going to do anything interesting with it. Like we just do the very
Yeah,
by the books mechanical stuff.
fucked up early too.
Yeah.
Classic government.
But what I was trying to say, moving away from Robbie Boy,
Mhm.
it's a very good supporting cast. Like, of
Oh,
course,
yeah,
Steven
for sure.
Yeun plays a smaller role for sure.
Mhm.
Timo,
The goat.
which is a really funny name.
Sounds like fucking Android. Timo.
Yeah, Timo. I don't know why she's not showing up on IMDb. There she is.
Nasha.
Yeah, Nasha, which is Naomi Aki, is really great.
Yeah.
And Toni Collette, of course. But I think the only point of contention here is like I was not super into Mark Ruffalo's role.
Yeah, he is basically playing his like reprising his Poor Things role
Yeah.
here in this movie. Which I mean, for me at least, I didn't really mind. I thought it fit the movie pretty well, but it is like kind of the same thing we already got, just in a different context.
Yeah. I feel like we talked about this kind of with like very fantastical stories, but there's like a certain line of zaniness and like being bold with a performance
Yeah.
that can be stretched like too thin.
I get what you mean.
And I feel like with Poor Things, it felt more suited for that kind of story. Kind of feels out of place in a situation or in a narrative like this.
Yeah, because it's definitely more grounded here.
Yeah.
And based on, I guess, real world issues,
Mhm.
even though there's like aliens and we're on different planets.
Yeah, and I totally get going for the whole parody of some politicians you may or may not know, but
Certain political leaders.
yeah. But I don't know, to a certain point, the commentary, like after his first couple appearances, you're like, okay, I
Yeah.
get the idea, and you're just kind of repeating similar themes and like commentary.
Yeah, it's definitely very on the nose, and there's not a lot of, I'm not gonna say not a lot of depth, but it's very one dimensional, I feel.
Yeah.
And I actually preferred Toni Collette's performance portraying this sort of like privileged, very powerful
Mhm.
leader sort of character, because I feel like her character just had so much more sauce to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because she's obsessed with sauce. Get
Oh
it?
wait, that was pretty clean.
I don't know. There just felt like there were more there were more layers to her character. There's more to think about there.
No, for sure. And it's not even a thing where it's like I need something to be so layered or
Mhm.
like not so surface level because I mean like one of my favorite movies from last year, The Substance, both of our one of our favorite movies.
Mhm.
Not a subtle movie at all,
Yeah.
but there's like a difference between using it to its benefits and then just kind of not really
Yeah. Because it feels
um
very intentional in the substance. But I
yeah.
think here, I'm not gonna say it wasn't intentional, but I think it went a bit further than maybe intended, and
No, for
maybe
sure.
further than what this story needed.
Mhm. And I feel like this is my favorite of his American movies.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, the American characters who are like the higher ups or like people in power is usually where this kind of commentary is like filled in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know, I think I enjoyed Tilda Swinton and Jake Gyllenhaal in Okja
Mm.
more than this. Or is it? I might be mixing those up. It might be Snowpiercer and Okja.
I haven't seen any others. I've only seen Parasite Big 17, so I can't help you.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not like huge on those two.
Mhm.
Like they're not bad, but they're definitely not my thing.
Yeah.
And I think this is he's definitely honing in on something better here.
Yeah, with his
Yeah.
American movies. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. And then I think just like technically very impressive movie. Like
Oh yeah, for
I'm
sure.
gonna look up the budget.
I mean, regardless of the budget, the special effects.
Yeah,
Great.
$118 million movie, and it looks better than I'd say like 90% of $300 million movies.
Dude, we're putting $100 million for a great product, and then we have these other like that Lord of the Rings show that cost $1 billion. No shade. I'm just pointing out
No,
some numbers.
all the shade because like, dude, who is talking about season 2?
No.
Anyway, if you want to hear me talk about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, go to our episode 10.
Yeah.
But horrendous show.
You guys talked about it?
Hmm?
Was that like a topic?
What do you mean you guys? You were there with me. Remember we were talking about TV shows?
Oh, you're right. You're
You don't
right.
even remember our
Yeah,
own
okay.
conversations.
Bro, it's been a while. It's been a while.
But yeah, I don't know if you heard around like its original release, Mickey 17,
Mhm.
but there are a bunch of delays
Oh yeah.
over creative control and like Bong's relationship with Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And it's just like it really upsets me that Warner Brothers especially is like one of those studios who just
Gets
does
in the
not
way.
understand the art side
Yeah.
of it.
And I feel like with a director like him, I feel like after Parasite, like, why can't you just trust the guy?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
he has a vision. He's shown that he can fucking execute it. Have a movie that does well critically and in the box office. Like, just trust him to do his thing. That's interesting. I didn't know that was the reason why
Yeah.
there were so many delays.
And there was a few things like the writer's strike, but I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know how involved he was with like the marketing.
Mhm.
And I didn't hate the marketing.
It doesn't represent the movie
Yeah.
very accurately. I like the marketing, but I think most general audiences are going to come into this expecting a different movie.
No, yeah, for sure. It definitely sells it more as like a commercial thing. And
Mhm.
I'm honestly surprised there's still a good amount in this movie that's like very much not for traditional
Yeah, a
audiences.
little bit challenging.
Yeah. Because most audiences don't want to be challenged. Like straight up.
Oh god.
Do we want to talk about some spoilery things, if anything?
Uh,
Because I feel
Sure,
like that
yeah.
kind of sums up anything non-spoiler for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess generally my feelings towards the movie have definitely shifted a bit since I first watched it. I loved it on my first watch, but I think the more I think about it, the less I guess we were just criticizing Think Back on Media.
Hypocrite.
The more I think about it, I guess I'm not as head over heels for this movie as I was when I first watched it. I think it's definitely because there's kind of a lack of focus, I think, thematically here.
Mhm.
It's a very tight story and very entertaining all the way through, for me at least. But I just think thematically speaking, it doesn't. It's hard to pin down what this movie's about, and that can definitely work in a lot of cases. I think a lot of my favorite movies have that quality to it. But I think here, I don't know, it just feels a bit scattered, and it's kind of hard to, for me at least, to wrap my brain around. Okay, what is he trying to say here? What
Mhm.
topic is he sort of speaking on?
I definitely agree with that sentiment, and
Okay,
we'll get into it in spoilers. So, spoilers for Mickey 17. If you haven't seen it,
from here on out,
go
go
see it.
watch it. It's
Yeah,
a great movie.
because I don't know if it. I don't remember hearing about too many great box office results, which is unfortunate
Yeah.
because original stories that haven't been adapted should be getting more love.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, spoilers. This movie takes quite a different turn in like I'd say like third act of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the movie opens with Mickey, and you think he's about to be consumed by these alien creatures,
The Creepers.
the creepers they call them.
I like that.
And I feel like by the end of the story, it's revealed that they're just another coexisting species.
That they're like,
They're these big, fluffy, weird, like Star Wars alien-looking
Yeah.
things.
I guess it's revealed that they're not like all powerful aliens.
Yeah.
And they're just like humans in terms of intelligence and I guess their goals. Like,
Mhm.
they just want to live, you know?
Yeah, which I thought was an interesting route to take. And I feel like this is kind of where the scatterbrainness comes in, where it's like there's intentional commentary for sure, but it's kind of losing its sense of focus by this
Really?
point.
I actually think the opposite. I feel like, well, this is my favorite part of the movie, and I feel like this was the most focused part
Mhm.
of the movie for me, at least. I feel like in the first and second act, we are kind of jumping around a lot of things.
Mhm.
This it works for the story, obviously, but I guess thematically we're kind of jumping around a bunch of things. But I think here is where I felt the vision the most, and it just felt the most clear here of
Mhm.
what the movie was trying to say, at least for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think I really enjoyed being tossed around from scenario to scenario, like seeing how the Mickeys interact
Yeah.
and like the contrast between 17 and 18. And I don't know, I feel like by the time it was kind of coming around back to this alien subplot, it's not that I didn't want it, but it didn't feel too warranted to me. Yeah, or like too compelling.
I just really loved the whole sequence, though. I thought it was a bit like overstimulating in like a good way. It just felt very intense without having to be like super like, I guess, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like, it doesn't have to have like crazy action or like some
Super high stake or
super high
anything.
stake to feel really intense. And that's a quality I really liked about the third act.
Yeah, I was still entertained though, regardless of any gripes with that part of the plot.
And I really loved how there was this sort of like conflicting interest. I forgot what it's called, but it's like when the audience knows something that the characters don't, and you're sort of watching them play out. Like
I
when
know
you see,
exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, and you see
Of
like,
course, it's slipping my mind too.
yeah. So you have like Mark Ruffalo and like Tony Collette and like their side of things where there's like they just want to kill them all, and we have like the creepers who are like we don't really know their intention, but we have I guess Mickey and Nasha as like the mediator between them, and they know, or at least they're under the impression that if they kill them, then they're gonna all die, basically. All the humans are going to die at their hand. So I thought that whole sort of interaction was really interesting and sort of spoke on, I guess, like the ridiculousness of, I don't want to say war, but I guess conflict between, I guess, different opposing parties. And
Yeah.
how there's just such a lack of communication. And
The classic America mindset of just go in guns blazing
yeah.
and declare that you're the ruler of this land.
And that's where I felt the themes were most clear to me, at least. And that's why I think this third act is the most focused part of the movie.
Yeah. Do we really have much else to say?
I wish there was more Steven Yeun. I mean, the story didn't need more
Yeah.
of him, but like, I just
No,
wish
you can never get enough Steven Yeun in a
yeah.
movie.
Like, the story didn't need more of his character,
Mm.
but the movie would have
benefited
from more
Yeah.
of him. Because I don't know, I guess the trailers made him seem like more of a major character, but he was honestly mostly just like, I'm not gonna say comic relief, but
hmm
sort of in that vein of character.
Oh yeah, for sure. More larger than
Unserious.
life than the other characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elliot Smith plays in one
Oh
scene.
yeah.
And
Twilight.
yeah, Twilight.
Goated song.
It was really interesting. I think it was the mixing of the song,
Mm-hmm.
but each time in the theater, like I heard it start playing, it sounds like it's coming from someone in the audience.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And
too.
it slowly creeps up, and then you're like, oh wait, it's Elliot Smith.
Because I think the effect they're going for is that it's just playing like on the speakers in their room, which I think is a really good way to use. It's a very like subtle way to include, I guess, like licensed music into your movie.
Yeah, I think this is not saying that they had to show her turning on the music, but like, was that the first moment of like a licensed song being used?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
It did feel a little like jarring.
Okay,
at first, but
I think it's because this world is so like far apart, like distant from our perception of reality, that hearing something like that we know is it's a little confusing. But I definitely think it fit.
No, it did for sure, and I can't get enough of seeing Elliot Smith in movies. He's the best part of I can't even remember that movie's name.
You just remember Elliot Smith.
Dude, what is the movie that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon star in that everyone glazes?
Good Will Hunting?
Yeah, oh my god.
You don't like Good Will Hunting?
No, it's no, I enjoy the movie.
I haven't seen
but
the
my
movie.
favorite part is Elliot Smith being in it.
That's crazy.
Anyway, though.
Who loves that movie. He would be very upset to hear you say that.
I didn't even say it was a bad movie. I literally said I like it.
But your favorite part's Elliot Smith and not the movie?
Dude, can you blame me, though?
True, yeah. You're right.
Dude, he cooked up someone specific for that movie. He put his heart and soul in there.
True.
Anyway, though, I guess those are our thoughts on Mickey 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good follow-up to Parasite, but just a little bit unfocused, I'd say, thematically. Because it's definitely going for something larger than life, thematically, trying to encompass a bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
It worked in some places and other places not as much, but still really enjoyed it.
Gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's
a great story. Like it's a lot of fun to watch.
It's fun, very compelling main character, and I like seeing Robert Pattinson in cuck roles, and also him being
Sigma.
Yeah, kind of badass.
Sigma Alpha. Yeah.
Ratings. That's how we do things here.
I'm going to give Mickey 17 a high 8 out of 10. Bordering on a 9.
Yeah, I've seen the movie twice, and my feelings did not change with the second viewing, but it's at a high 8, I'd say, too.
Cool. You're copying me? That's okay.
I believe your rating was higher than mine before.
Yeah, but things change, you know. I'm just influential.
I thought you said it was a bad thing to look back on your past and retroactively change
okay,
your
well,
thoughts.
You know, when I do it, it's because I'm very in tune with art. So when I do it, it's actually 100% accurate.
I hate this guy.
All right.
And we'll be back to talk about a very anticipated Steven Yeun project.
Oh, yeah.
And we're back for our second discussion. And we're going to be talking about the hit Amazon Prime show, Invincible. I don't think that's the theme.
That's like close.
Yeah, actually, maybe it is. Yeah, but if you don't know by this point, Invincible is a superhero story by Robert Kirkman, who many people know is the creator of The Walking Dead. But this is a very different kind of story. It's kind of like a generic, like, coming of age superhero story, like surface level,
but with a twist.
But with a very Kirkman-esque twist.
Yeah.
Or Kirkman twist, because it's him. Invincible, it's set in a much more violent, chaotic world of superheroes.
Yeah.
And it stars a Korean American named Mark Grayson.
Yes.
Who is the son of a very strong and notable superhero in the world.
Strongest superhero
in
the world.
Called Omni-Man.
Nolan Grayson.
Yeah.
Voiced by J.K. Simmons.
And Steven Yeun is Mark.
Yeah.
and
It's following his adventure, I guess, into
Yeah.
becoming a superhero.
faux show. And we've brought up Invincible a few times before, but we haven't really gone in depth for it yet.
Yeah.
So before we talk about season 3, I'd say we should talk about like our brief thoughts on season 1 and 2. So
Yeah, for
Joshua,
sure.
do you want to start off?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll start with season 1. I think Invincible season 1 is, I mean, I guess when that hit, it was such like felt like a very big deal because of, I guess, the immediate twist it took, or
Yeah.
it had on the superhero genre.
Spoilers for all of Invincible, by the way.
we're not gonna hold back. I guess what got me into Invincible, which I guess worked as like a double-edged sword because it was a spoiler as well, is seeing like people's reactions to Omni-Man killing the Guardians in episode 1. I think that was such like a viral moment for the internet, and just seeing that was like made me immediately think like, holy shit, I need to know like what this show's about, like,
Yeah.
what's going on here.
Yeah, I felt the same way because it came out 2021. So we already had like The Boys
Yeah.
that was kind of playing on this side of like, oh, an edgier, darker world of superheroes.
Mhm.
But I feel like this was kind of missing in the animated space
Yeah, for
for
sure.
superhero content. So yeah, it definitely had that impact at the time because
Mhm.
I was always like mildly aware of Invincible and like what he was, but I never knew to this extent
Yeah.
that it was really about deconstructing superheroes
Yeah.
and getting really gritty and violent with it.
Yeah. And I think the fact that it was animated made it so that it had something new to the table. Because I
Yeah.
think if it was a live action show, people would just be like, oh, it's trying to be like The Boys.
Yeah, it's
Even
another
though-
one of those.
Yeah. And it is in the same vein of, I guess, an edgier superhero story, but very different show and very different, I guess, approach to superheroes.
Yeah, and what helps is that it's not attached to anything else. This is by Image Comics
Mhm.
and not anything like Marvel or DC.
So we have like a set story to go on.
Yeah. And it's really propped up by the amazing voice talent that is brought on
Yeah.
to the show, like Steven Yeun,
J.K.
J.K.
Simmons.
Simmons, two of the best like animated performances out there
And then we have like,
without hyperbole, like
Yeah.
honestly.
and I think it's a little too good because I think one of the, I guess, immediate problems we have with Invincible from the start of the show is that
Yeah.
we have this all-star cast. That's where all the money's going to.
hmm
But then we have the animation, which is, I guess, the roughest here in season 1. It's
Mhm.
still, it's serviceable and is good when it needs to be, but there are definitely some moments.
Yeah.
I guess most notably the Mars episode, which
Oh,
looks,
for sure.
which looks jank as fuck.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be an ongoing topic on this discussion, but yeah, you can definitely tell in which episodes they prioritize the money and like spending very significant amounts of time working on
The animation.
yeah, framing, rendering,
Mhm.
shadows and all that animation jazz. And when it's really good, it's really
great, yeah.
visually stunning. But it's just unfortunate that in a lot of episodes and moments it falls very flat, which is sad.
Yeah, but I think the fact that this show has such like a Saturday morning cartoon type of art style
Yeah.
really sort of saves it
Mhm.
because I guess those type of shows don't usually have the best animation. Like, not that they're bad or anything, but
Yeah.
they're not like crazy or anything. So when this show is kind of holding back on that front, it's not too jarring.
Yeah.
Like, you can look past it and still enjoy the show because the writing here is amazing.
Yeah, the writing, the core story of the conflict between Mark trying to become a superhero because this is something he's wanted since he was a kid versus the idea that his father is like the worst horrible human. He's not human.
Like
Worst-
villain.
yeah, villain
Yeah.
out there is a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah. And that, while being a plus, is also, I guess, sort of a fault because I think in this season, this is a problem specific to the season. We have the Omni-Man story, which is really, really compelling.
Yeah,
And
the heart of the show.
the heart of the show. And then we have the sort of monster of the week storylines where it's kind of just like they're fine, but they're not. It's not what we're here to see.
Yeah, of the same quality
Yeah.
or intrigue.
with the exception of the Machine Head storyline, which I fucking love that episode, honestly,
Yeah.
because the fight with Battle Beast,
Mm.
oh, it's so good.
It
I feel like that's like a turning point in the show. Like,
really
obviously,
is. Yeah.
the Omni-Man and the Guardians is like the major turning point, but that fight scene, I think, still holds up with like the later stuff that we've seen now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because it's at that point you're like, oh, he's really not sticking by his name. Like he
Yeah.
gets decimated every single fight that he's slightly overpowered. Okay, he's very overpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just gets bodied and always ends up looking like that one beat up fish from SpongeBob.
Yeah. That's really one of the main principles of the show is the struggle.
Yeah.
I feel like you feel that in every single action sequence where he really has to fight to win, basically. And that's a quality of the show that I really love because I don't know, it just makes things so much more satisfying when it's not easy for the hero, when it's especially difficult for the hero.
Yeah, and especially in a case like this where the characters are so overpowered that it's like an anime problem or like a Goku problem where this character is just invincible and you're just gonna didn't mean to say that. This character is untouchable and there's really no stake to their action or consequence.
Yeah.
But
it's done really well here. Can we do like a title card like every time we say his name?
that would just be too much.
Invincible.
Yeah. But I guess to wrap up season 1, very strong ending with the final 2 episodes where the conflict kind of comes to a head.
Yeah.
And Mark is faced with Omni-Man and like realizing that his father is a bad guy.
I actually want to talk about the last episode. That is still my favorite episode of the show. And honestly, one of my favorite episodes of TV I think I've seen ever. Like that fight is just so unique to this show. Not because of the action, more so because of the emotions behind it.
Yeah.
And just like how like it's really devastating to watch because it's just such like an out of this world sort of revelation that Mark has to come to and learn to deal with. And I guess the brutality of Omni-Man and J.K. Simmons' fucking amazing voice performance just really works to sell this episode as something like truly special, honestly. And it's, I don't know, I just haven't seen anything else like it. So I just want to like shout it out because I fucking love this final episode.
No, I totally agree. Like there's at no point at this point of the story do you feel this kind of sense of like hopelessness and like dreary.
Yeah.
Because
and this level of gore.
Yeah, like they show that he's the most powerful character versus his son who is just starting out. Like obviously he's gonna get bodied.
Yeah.
And he gets shredded in this episode.
The train scene.
Yeah.
Jesus. That was another like viral moment. I'm glad I didn't see that like before I watched the show, but that was another moment from this that really like I guess like riled up the internet because it's just so insane and so messed up.
Yeah, very good spectacle, like cities being absolutely decimated.
Yeah.
But it like to me it doesn't have that Man of Steel problem where you're seeing Dragon Ball level fights and feeling no impact. Like I feel like
I think it's because Mark is so outclassed.
Yeah, and it's
like,
because of the voice acting. Like you really feel
for sure
the weight of what the characters are experiencing.
Yeah.
Which I can't say about like a Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah, I think this episode really works to make I think everything we've had to not like sit through as in it's bad, but like everything we've had before that wasn't as interesting as the Omni-Man stuff. It really makes it worth it. It makes it worth it sitting through the Muller twins do some bullshit for like the third time, which is honestly my least favorite part of the show. But we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah. And then last thing, like I think their final exchange before Omni-Man leaves the planet is like one of the best moments of the show.
Oh yeah.
One of the best written parts of the comics too.
What will you have after 500 years? Cinema, bro. Absolute cinema.
I still love you guys. Yeah, dude. Good memes that came from that too. The Omni-Man memes are amazing.
I know. Bro, you know it like a scene is good and when it's memed to death like that. It's like the Breaking Bad effect.
Yeah. And this scene specifically, there are a bunch of lines like from how it was adapted that they added. That was the most complex way I could have phrased that. But when they were adapting, they are very good about excluding certain lines of dialogue
Mm-hmm.
and also including more to give it more weight.
Yeah.
And this is a scene especially that
Yeah.
sticks out.
Because I know Robert Kirkman is really involved with the show.
Yeah.
And what he's doing, from what I've heard, is basically writing a second draft of the
Mhm.
story and just improving upon the things maybe he regrets doing and
Yeah.
the things he wish he could have added. He's basically just rewriting the whole story and making it better, which is great.
Yeah, and it's totally fair for him to be this involved. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
will allow the show to still feel true to its core,
Mm-hmm.
but also it'll still be refreshing enough.
Yeah, something worth
adapting,
for
for comic readers too.
Yeah.
Do we want to move to season 2?
Ratings.
Yeah. So season 1, I'd give a very high 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Actually, no, I give it a high 8 out of 10. I did actually rewatch this season in its entirety and like half of season 2 after finishing season 3.
Nice.
And I did bring up the fact that the Omni-Man stuff is like a lot more interesting than like the sort of villain of the week type of stuff. But I actually found myself enjoying the villains in season 1 a lot more than I did on first watch. I think maybe it's because they do come back in later seasons with, I guess, a bit more, I don't know, say like charm to them. I don't know, a bit more sauce to them. So just seeing them in this early stage is, I guess, it's more palatable. It's more fun to see. Like,
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
All right. That was supposed to be brief, but it was not.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on to season 2, which followed season 1 after a nearly 3-year. All right, it was a little close to 3-year wait.
2 years, 2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless,
It
a
was
pretty
while.
long wait. And this season catches up with Mark post Omni-Man destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very solid follow-up
Yeah.
and setup season.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think people are too harsh on this season.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have any of the moments like Omni-Man killing the Guardians or the train scene or like the mountain scene at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
But I still think this is a very solid season. They're kind of just building upon everything they set up in season 1. And I think what the season really works to do is make the Earth stuff like more interesting.
Yeah,
more
for
compelling
sure.
to watch. Not having the show just be about the Viltrumites.
Yeah, there's some very good development for, I guess, B characters who you might not care as much about.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they place them in scenarios to kind of expand on their character is very interesting this season.
Can we shout out Debbie and Rex?
Yes, especially.
Like Debbie was, I mean, she was good in season 1, obviously.
Yeah.
She very much had a minor role, but I think after the events of the finale, they did a good job of capitalizing on how that could affect her character. And she honestly becomes one of the best characters in the show in this season.
Oh, 100%.
Just because it's such a good take on, I guess, the superhero wife archetype character. And it's really hard to watch at times, but at the same time, it is a great depiction of the trauma that would come from everything that has happened to her.
Yeah, like stands out one of the best performances by Sandra Oh.
Oh, yeah.
As Mark's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh my god, I don't remember his name.
It's a mouthful.
We got voicing Rex Splode, Jason Matsukas. We'll go with that. But yeah. Very recognizable voice actor, but I think he brings something really great to Rex Splode.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I guess we'll dive into that a little more in a second, but I want to kind of go in order.
Okay.
So we're, with this season, kind of building back momentum from the Omni-Man incident.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is the weakest part of the season because they are going back to the like creature of the week kind of formula.
Yeah.
But these stories like just don't feel very compelling.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to remind me, what does the season start out with?
This episode starts with like kind of the aftermath, or episode 1 starts out aftermath of like his betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where we're introduced to Angstrom Levy.
Oh,
and like the multiverse.
And more Mauler twins.
Yes. Because you loved them so much in season 1. They had to come back.
Okay. And then we get the fish storyline.
Yeah.
I remember. So yeah, I mean, not the strongest start. I
Yeah.
mean, it starts right ahead, so maybe it is strong. No, not the not the strongest start. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna get my no. I'm not gonna let my Radiohead bias get in the way of my
Yeah, but
critical integrity.
very much the most like basic kind of Invincible stories you can tell.
Yeah,
And it starts to get interesting by the halfway point where
yeah.
they revisit the Omni-Man stuff.
Actually, we do get a Alan episode before, so
You were right. Yeah.
I think that's where the season starts to pick up.
Okay.
And oh yeah, I guess shout out Alan too, because I
Yeah.
think this season is where I mean you see Alan a little bit in season 1, but he's kind of just like, hey, it's Seth Rogen. But then here he becomes like the Alan we all love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He goes through a really interesting transformation as he's invincible
Yeah.
by some Viltrumites and comes back
Yeah.
a Giga Chad.
And dude, Seth Rogen as Alan, so good.
Yeah. Dude, it's so nice to see him actually do something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Because he tends to not do that. But we were talking about this earlier. He's works a lot better as a producer than he does most of the time starring.
Yeah. And him
Or
as
writing.
Alan is like just the perfect casting, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, he's so good at this character. He's so charismatic
Mhm.
and just fun to watch him just do shit, you know?
Yeah.
Do his antics. And it's a good change of pace from following Mark, because I feel like Mark's storyline is so like high stakes and kind of a downer emotionally.
Yeah.
So like seeing Alan just like go through all this stuff and like he's not having fun obviously, but he's just a very like funny dude, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's a good change of pace.
Yeah, and I guess now moving towards the Thraxia storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we talk about like this, assuming that everyone's watched it.
Yeah.
So then we don't get too annoying.
We already had a spoiler.
Really great episode. Episode 4, It's Been a While.
Oh yeah.
And this is, I guess, the first like major advancement of seeing like them facing the Viltrumite conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like similar to the season 1 finale, it's just a very nice like crescendo and like display of like brutality.
Yeah.
Because it's very senseless kind of fighting, but it's presented and grounded with the characters.
Yeah.
Very well.
I really love how like the Viltrumites view themselves as so like high above like every other being, but the way they fight is so animalistic and so like it doesn't match with like their view of themselves.
They just shredding, bro.
Yeah.
They shredding each other.
And I think Mark reuniting with his father, it feels kind of early, but at the same time, I really do like the interaction they have here because it feels very realistic. Like, especially when he goes in to hug him at the start.
Yeah.
Like, that felt very, like, unexpected, but at the same time, you get why, like, Mark would react like that because he's in such a weird position here.
Yeah. We brought this up when you mentioned Debbie, but yeah, just the place that season 1 leaves off a lot of the characters is what is so strong about this season. There's a lot of good groundwork to build off of. And I think they capitalize off of that very well.
Yeah, it handles it like my pet peeve in shows, especially like action type shows, is like when people die or when like horrible things happen. A lot of the times, shows just don't do a good job of like having the characters react in the way real people would.
Yeah,
because a lot of the time, like these horrible things happen, and then they kind of just like sweep under the rug because we need a new story arc to be in. But here we have just such great character writing that feels so grounded. And it's just really refreshing to like actually feel the impact of these things that have happened.
Yeah. It's not just mindless nonsense on the screen.
Yeah.
And before we move on with the rest of the season, I have to talk about this because this is going to communicate my point of view. But this is the mid-season, and then they decided to take a hype break to release the rest of the season, and there was about like a 4 or 5 month wait.
Oh yeah, dude.
And I decided at that point, you know what? I want this story now, and the story is already out there, so I'm just going to read it all. And I read the entire graphic novel and got the entire Invincible story. So at this point, our perspectives are really breaking off.
Because I'm show only here.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite for Attack on Titan. Justin was show only. I read ahead in the manga.
Which puts me in a really interesting place at this point, because I feel like I'll be able to talk about it more when we talk about season 3.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing things that will have payoffs later,
Mm.
and then seeing other people react to them and not understand the context,
Yeah.
it's a hard discussion to have. Yeah.
But it's also good because it means like there's a little nod to the comic readers,
Mhm.
like stuff that they can look out for,
Yeah.
and like have that sort of like brain dead, like, oh my god, I know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving forward, we have episode 5
Mm-hmm.
where Mark comes back to Earth
Yeah.
and he goes back with the baby that
Oh yeah, Oliver.
that Omni-Man had.
Yeah.
With the little bug boy.
And we'll talk more
Yeah.
about Oliver in
Or with
the
the little
next
bug
season.
woman.
But Oliver here, just a little chill little dude, bro.
Little purple boy.
Little purple dude. And he comes home. Oh my, we forgot to talk about Amber.
I was gonna bring that up
He
in a second. Yeah.
comes back to Amber, who in season 1 is the most hateable character you could ever make.
Yeah, you could say that she's the real villain of season 1.
Yeah, Omni-Man, he killed thousands of people, but Amber, she was annoying, so I think she's worse.
Yeah.
No. But I guess in season 2, they really listened to how much people hated her.
Yeah.
So they kind of overcompensated, and now she doesn't feel like a character. She just feels like the writers, like, winking at the audience, like, yeah, we're going to make her likable. She's very understanding now.
Yeah.
I don't know, minor complaint. Actually, not a minor complaint. I think this season does struggle with balancing the real conflict and then Mark's stupid conflict with wanting to go to college, which is just like, it's the same thing he dealt with last season.
Yeah.
Like him trying to balance high school with being a hero. Now he's trying to balance college with being a hero. It's really redundant.
It
I
is. Yeah, it's like we're taking a step back in a way because
Mhm.
yeah, easily the weakest part of the season.
Yeah.
But one of the strongest points in this episode is where they set up the Guardians kind of conflict where it's half of the group
Mm-hmm.
and they're sent to handle the Lizard League.
The Lizard League.
Yeah, who appears every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you think they're just kind of this one-off
Like
gimmick villains.
C tier group of
Yeah.
nobodies. But then they fuck shit up.
Yeah, they body. I guess they don't kill anyone, but
I mean, they seriously injure,
yeah.
duplicate, and shrinking Ray. And I guess another shocking moment. I don't think on the level of like the moments in season 1, but like when Ray like explodes or like grows herself in like the guy's body, but then he's like such a shit brick house, or I said that so wrong. He's such a big boy that he like basically like eats her like inside his body. That was a really cool moment.
Yeah. And then one of the best moments of the show is Rex having to fight off, clutch up 1v3 the rest of the Lizard League because I mean, besides just being a very visually cool scene, I guess we've never really had this moment with a series where a superhero is just so outclassed.
Yeah.
And is literally struggling to like stay alive.
Yeah.
And is like panicked.
I mean, we've seen that in Mark, but seeing that in like someone else here
in this context,
is really cool. And it kind of sets up Rex's arc of not being a douchebag anymore.
Yeah.
I guess in season 1, Rex did really annoy me, but looking back now, I'm glad that he was the way he was because it gives him such an interesting arc to go on.
Yeah.
This like self-improvement journey from here on out because he almost dies in this fight in the most badass way possible. But
yeah, and this is an improvement they made from the books that I really appreciate. Like, Rex is very much a one-note background character in the graphic novels, but here I guess a lot of it's because of the voice acting. He's given a lot more personality.
Yeah,
but I feel like there's a lot more dialogue and moments where he feels like an actual character, and it's at this point like it's a turning point for him.
Yeah,
and it sets up some really cool things for the future.
Yeah, and I also really like the Sequid conflict. Like, I don't think it's as good as the Lizard League fight, but it's still like, I'm glad like we have these villains returning, you know, and they're more powerful than when we last saw them because it makes the show feel more cohesive. Like we're not just jumping around to a bunch of random villains, like all the time. Like we have recurring characters that like develop. I guess not like in like character arcs, but more in like power. Like they become stronger. It just feels cool to me. It makes this world feel united, sort of.
I guess in terms of big events, we have episode 7, where Mark is faced with another Viltrumite, Anissa,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
and we
Yeah.
have another Omni-Man type fight where he's very outclassed by
Yeah.
her. And this is like kind of coinciding with his relationship with Amber, which
Yeah.
everyone cares about
A lot.
and
Yeah.
is so invested in.
And was so sad when it ended.
Yeah.
Here. I
Uh,
like this fight a lot. I like the use of the Viltrumites in this show because they just hop in once in a while and sort of just remind both Mark and the audiences that like there is this like oncoming threat.
Yeah.
Like I guess there isn't time to just like be fucking around with
Mhm.
these like other villains, you know. We have this overarching thing.
Yeah, and I understand the decision to make this a penultimate episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like I enjoy this one, but I feel like it does undermine the finale a little bit to me,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about right now.
Yeah.
So we talked about briefly Angstrom Levy is this multiversal character who can like hop through different dimensions, has a burning hate for Invincible, just like goons the idea of killing Invincible
After something that wasn't even his fault.
But yeah, very good voice performance by Sterling K. Brown.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he comes back in this episode and kind of holds Mark's family hostage.
They have this sort of like interdimensional battle.
Yeah.
Where Mark has to figure out how he can save his mom and his brother from this dude.
And I don't know, like it doesn't scream like a finale for Invincible to me.
Yeah.
It kind of became redundant at a certain point. We just see Mark in multiple different universes, and it just the joke kind of runs out by the third or fourth background.
Yeah, it's not the most compelling finale, but I really do like how it ends and what it sort of implies for Mark's character. Him killing Angstrom so brutally. Yeah, killing in quotation marks. Killing Angstrom so brutally, and him sort of being like, I guess, very disgusted with himself because it's the first time he actually like kills someone.
I didn't even think about this for a while, but I like the idea that it's mirroring what his dad did to him at the end of last season. But at the same time, I'm noticing a structural thing where it's like the season will build up to this climactic, brutal fight at the end. And I feel like this one just did not have the same kind of impact.
I mean, I guess this is just how the story goes.
Yeah.
Not that the case I saw.
This is how the story goes.
This is just how the story goes. But like, so I don't know if there's much they could do. It's just sort of the timing of what the point of this story.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm still fine. I still thought it was a decent episode though.
No, yeah, I enjoy it for sure.
Yeah. I think it's just no way could have lived up to the ending of season 1 for sure.
Especially when we're in the thick of it.
Okay, bro. Stop.
You started it.
Dead meme. Okay, I didn't mean to start it. You didn't have to add on.
Yeah, and I feel like this is where my reader perspective comes back in again because I know of what's coming with this Angstrom Levy storyline.
Yeah.
So at this point, when this episode was released, I was giving it a lot more credit. But I guess
you have to think of it from like a show perspective.
Yeah.
Because it felt very like, damn, it's like already over. Like it felt like the season should have been longer. And I also feel like even though it does good things for Mark's character, it still is a setup for stuff we'll see in the next season relating to this conflict.
Yeah. Do we have much to say about season 2? Should we get to the meat?
Yeah, I think I'm good on season 2.
Oh yeah.
Ratings.
Rating, I'd give season 2 a high 7.
I give this like a solid 8. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Not as much as season 1, but I still really enjoyed it.
Nice. All right. We've finally caught up to the present.
Season 3, yes.
Yeah, season 3. Do you want to take it from here?
I mean, I guess season 3 picks up where season 2 left off. Mark dealing with him having killed someone and I guess his conflict with Anissa. We see him training and sort of really locking in, dropping out of college, dumping Amber, locking in so he can be ready for, if a Viltrumite comes back again. And honestly, to speak generally, I think season 3 is the best season so far.
I would also agree with that sentiment.
Okay, yeah. Because I think this is the most focused season. I think like episode for episode, story by story, like it's the most consistent it's the most consistently great season we've gotten so far.
Hmm.
And I really think this season starts off so strong with its first 2 episodes,
Mhm.
where we have this conflict between Mark and Cecil,
Yeah.
based on Cecil's use of past villains and sort of rehabilitating them into, I guess, tools for the government to use.
The Reaniman.
Yeah, and Darkwing.
It's crazy we haven't brought it up till now, but Walton Goggins, who
Oh,
I've
yeah.
mentioned I liked before, is also one of the best parts of the
Yeah,
series as
for sure.
Cecil. Yeah, when I read that character, I hear that voice.
And the character of Cecil really gets expanded upon in
Yeah.
this season, especially in episode 2, where we get to see his backstory and sort of see why he's taking this stance on how to deal with villains. And it's just great TV seeing Mark and Cecil butt heads and really fight for their opposing views.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the time with superhero stories, especially, it's bogged down by the powerless like agent or like military figure, but I feel like it's really not the case.
Yeah, Cecil definitely has
Invincible.
the power, especially with the whole thing of like the thing he puts in Mark's ear. Like,
Yeah.
it really adds stakes to this because it isn't just like the superhero and like the government guy or not the government guy like
agent
arguing, but like clearly the superhero's in the right. Like here we have a conflict that is actually morally gray and feels like you could argue for both sides and no one's really wrong and no one's really correct either.
Yeah, because I feel like this season especially brings out the like hothead side of Mark the most. And one of the most intriguing parts of his character is that he is so dead set on whatever he thinks is right.
Yeah.
And he is so opposed to changing that.
Yeah, and I really like how this season it's not scared to show that Mark Grayson is a very flawed character.
Yeah.
That he can be wrong sometimes. And I really just love how much he's developed since season 1 because I feel like in season 1 he was a very generic superhero protagonist, but by the time we're here in season 3, you can really feel how everything he's been through has changed him.
Yeah.
And he feels like such a unique and defined character by this point.
And I think with the first 2 episodes is really where we start diving into the Adam Eve relationship.
Yeah.
Which has been like kind of teased throughout.
Yeah. But we finally get it here.
With what we all been waiting for.
With a bit of a rocky start.
Yeah.
Bro fumbling, but
yeah, and this is a part where the relationship feels a little rushed to me.
Okay.
Especially early into the season. And I didn't feel that way in reading it because they spent a lot of time setting up that relationship.
Yeah.
Having back and forth and like miscommunication. I feel like here they're really trying to establish their relationship to get to where they eventually end up by the finale.
Yeah. I think for me, like just as a like show only, I didn't really feel the rush aspect of it. But I do think throughout the season it feels very redundant.
Yeah.
When the show wants to show the relationship, they kind of just do it in the same way every time. Which, I mean, at first I was very like annoyed by like how much time we were spending on it. But by the end of the season, I was glad that they took the time to sort of develop it. I just wish they had gone about it in a different way.
Yeah, especially when they're having big moments and like intimate moments told through like the end credit scenes.
Yeah.
Like it's already showing you that, oh, this little thing here, take a look at it. And it's not really feeling like an impactful development or moment for the 2 characters.
Dude, and they're on that roof like 5 separate times this season. I was just getting upset, like, bro, they're on the same roof and they're wearing like the same fits every time. And they're just summarizing what happened in the episode, but like it's fine. It's a small thing, really.
Yeah, and another great part of the season is how much Mark can never catch a break because he's dealing with Oliver growing up and wanting to be a superhero.
And this adds even more layers to, I guess, Mark's conflict of killing and villains and sort of the morality of being a superhero because Oliver has a very, I guess, like immature point of view where he's just like, this guy's a bad guy. Why don't we just kill him? You know? And
valid.
And he's like grown up here too. He's like an 8-year-old or something. So now he's like an actual character. And I was very scared when he first came on that he'd just be like some annoying kid. But then he kills the Maulers, and I loved him because the Maulers suck, and he killed them. And we get no more Maulers in this season, which is great.
Would you be so happy if they come back?
No, I don't want to kill myself. I know they're coming back. Like there's.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do value the Oliver side of the Invincible story.
Mm-hmm.
It does really add something interesting
Yeah.
to Mark, who is already balancing so much, but now has to be a mentor figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's kind of like a twisted, like Spider-Man and younger Spider-Man kind of dynamic.
It also kind of mirrors the relationship he had with his dad.
Yeah.
Because I think they have the same conflicts, but in different ways, where I guess Nolan was trying to sort of sway Mark to like the Viltrumite side, while Mark is trying to sway Oliver to like the human side and give him a more human point of view on how to be a hero.
Yeah, very, very poetic stuff.
This show's good at
that. Before we move on from this episode, I have to say my only gripe was a certain line that they cut, and it's between their like final exchange where Oliver asks Mark, "Do you ever think that maybe Dad was right with like what he did on Earth?"
Yeah.
And in the comics, it's followed with Mark saying "sometimes."
Damn.
And that's, I believe, the end of the issue. And that was cut from the episode, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And
damn, that changes a lot of things.
Yeah. And I was praising how they were adapting stuff in season 1. But I feel like that issue is starting to come out here where they're cutting a lot of very key moments of dialogue and exchanges. And it's not even being a stickler for what was written, but it's more of I feel like it just either removes weight or just changes the context of it for the worse.
I mean, that at the end of the day, that could also be intentional. Maybe they're trying to, I guess, not put Mark in another direction, but I guess maybe Robert Kirkman felt that wasn't his vision for Mark. That sort of, I guess, stance on that issue. I don't know. And that is very interesting, though. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a very, that's a subtle change, but at the same time, it's like a huge change.
And I'd say most of the rest of my issues with the season kind of come out with these next 3 episodes. That, for the most part, to me, unfortunately, really feels like fluff to fill out the season and like stretch it to the 8 episodes. We have the twins storyline where they take Mark to a universe where Immortal is like the king.
Yeah.
And then we have they bring back, what's his name, Titan? The rock guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're
with, like Machine Head.
Yeah. And these 2 storylines specifically are just like not compelling at this point at all.
Like they're fine episodes, but I guess the twins one is kind of saved by the fact that we also have Nolan and Alan come back, and they have a great fight scene with a few Viltrumites.
It's just like, don't get me wrong, love the Alan segment, but it's like I don't know how to feel when you're like saying like, oh, cut to this, and like kind of treating it as like side shit.
I mean, it's not really an issue for me because I mean, it's obvious that this stuff is important. I guess it's just a quirky little way to introduce Alan, because it is jarring. You don't have the luxury of having one issue be based around Mark, and then the next issue you can just make it about Alan. Like a lot of the times, it's going to overlap within an episode.
Yeah, I guess
you have to segue it.
This is very much their like workaround. I feel like with the Omni-Man and Alan storyline specifically, like you kind of want their escape to feel more impactful, and for them to just have most of their moments together be in end credit scenes last season doesn't add weight to when they eventually do.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it does lead to a really good fight scene.
Yeah,
so
very good.
It's a little stumble in the way, but it gets there.
Yeah, and not everything's gonna be adapted perfectly. We're reintroduced to Battle Beast.
Oh yeah, and we get to see him like really cook.
Yeah.
It's so like funny how like he was just in that episode of season 1, and like obviously he was powerful, but we didn't know the extent of like how powerful he was. Like he's like stronger, or like he's as strong as like most Viltrumites, which is crazy that he was working for fucking Machine Head, this fucking D tier ass villain.
Yeah, he's pining for that Viltrumite blood.
But the reason why I rewatched season 1 was to see that Battle Beast fight again. And honestly, like, there is attention to detail in showcasing how strong Battle Beast is.
Yeah.
There's like a little part where like he slams Mark's head to the ground, and like there's like a big splurt of blood.
Yeah.
And like if like any other like villain did that to Mark, like that wouldn't happen. But they added that little detail just to show like how powerful he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's some strengths within the fluff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have episode 6.
But the Machine Head Titan episode is not. There's no strengths. It's just like whatever.
Yeah.
That's my one gripe with this season.
Episode.
Yeah.
Episode 6, we have the Powerplex storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to keep going back to the books. But this is one of my favorite issues of the comics.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just felt very underwhelming the way they adapted it into the show.
I'm very conflicted with this episode because on the one hand, I really love the writing and the performances. And I think the episode really works in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, the animation is kind of jank.
Oh, chopped.
And it's like, I guess in the perspective of like the studio execs or whoever is like running the show,
yeah,
this isn't a story that needs good animation, but this is a story that needs good animation.
Because really,
it's so like emotionally intense and just so like the oomph that would have been that it would have had if it had like god tier animation would have made all the difference.
Yeah, you could say it's very emotionally charged.
Okay.
Yeah, but I certainly agree. Animation, more time spent on it would benefit it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Paul voices Powerplex.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's one of the casting decisions this season where I was really like, do we need like an A-list star to come in for this one-off character?
Yeah, I remember I did disagree with you, but the more I think about it, like, obviously Aaron Paul did a great job.
He wasn't bad.
He's good in everything, but it didn't need to be Aaron Paul. We could have allocated that budget towards the animation for this episode, and I think we would have gotten a better product.
For sure. And then this episode is also an example of them cutting very key sequences and like conversations that there was no reason to cut it because it just like takes away the impact by the end of the story, because by the time he kills his kid and his wife, obviously like on a moral line you're gonna feel bad for this character, but there's not kind of the same personal connection that you have compared to when you're reading it. But I do like their emphasis on his perspective viewing Omni-Man and Invincible's fight and like seeing their impact on the rest of the world. That was a nice touch.
I really like the whole sequence at the start where we kind of get this flashback to like these season 1 events. It's really good.
Another Man of Steel thing, except done a lot better.
Yeah, because like realistically there would be at least one villain made of that of that whole sequence, because people are losing their fucking families to all that
left and right.
I don't know, but I still think the climax this episode comes to is really good, and it's still like sort of hit me emotionally, even if there were some things I would have liked to have been done better.
But this episode ends with a tease showing that Ingstrom Levy is back. He survived being turned into a Demogorgon
somehow,
into being split open, bologna sandwiched.
Which leads us into the next episode where we have the Invincible War,
where he assembles a multiversal team of evil Marks to stop the only good Mark.
Bro is so cooked in his logic.
I think most people will agree on this. This is really the meat of the season. The strongest part of the show and the most compelling. I guess, what were your first impressions hearing or like being aware that a multiverse story was coming?
I was very excited because I think, I mean, obviously multiverses are kind of done to death by this point, but like I think this approach to it is super interesting because it's such like a large scale conflict that we haven't really seen in the show. Obviously, we've seen like Viltrumite conflict, but we haven't seen it to this level where it's a bunch of Marks. But I don't know. I'm sort of conflicted on this episode too, because
really,
while I think the writing is great here
Mhm.
and the story is very, very good and well done, there's something about this episode that just doesn't have the sauce, I feel like. Like, I
Mm,
don't feel the impact of things. And I have that same complaint for the Powerplex episode, but I think I feel it here more than that episode.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
Because I don't know. I just think the way, like, they just jump from conflict to conflict, it just makes it really hard to feel fully attached to the
Yeah.
episode and everything that's happening. Because it's in this, like, sort of montage style. Like, you don't really feel the effect of, like, the whole world being destroyed
Mhm.
by these alternate marks.
I understand the perspective for sure. We like briefly talked about this, but it's really funny that you say that because
Hmm.
it feels more rushed. You say it feels rushed here.
Yeah.
This is like slow pace compared to how they do it in the comics. I feel like they added just enough touch and like elaboration to
Mhm.
many moments to give it more weight here.
Mm,
And I don't know, I feel like they just really went like all out with especially the animation,
yeah.
but just like the stakes of this episode.
Mhm. Yeah, I really do like how they gave these alternate marks like real character to
Mhm.
them, even if it's very subtle. It is a nice touch to it. But I think my main problem here is Rex's death because
Mm.
I think the way they handle it just feels it doesn't feel like it's worthy for the amount of development they've been
Uh,
giving him since season 2. Because I don't know, I can't even like describe it properly. It doesn't feel like it's coming and then it just happens. You're
yeah,
like, "Oh shit, he actually died." Like you
yeah.
don't feel the emotion of like, "Holy shit, one of the best characters in the show is dying."
Interesting, because it had more emotional weight to me. Obviously they've been kind of doing that generic thing in a lot of stories where they give him more screen time than normal
Mhm.
and give him a whole relationship, but
Yeah.
I honestly think that worked to make that final sacrifice he has feel a lot more heavy. He's going out with purpose
Yeah.
rather than
I think it's just the nature of the episode because we were just like on some other fight and we
yeah.
cut to this new fight and then they're in trouble, but we don't know like how that mark got there or anything.
Mhm.
And then we just Mark and then Rex just tells him to go away and then he fights the Invincible and then he dies.
Yeah.
Like it just feels I mean, I don't know what more they could have done. Maybe this is just the personal preference for me. It just doesn't feel like enough for the character.
Mhm.
I guess I just really like climactic moments for
I don't know,
one.
what do you think of this? Kirkman, when he was writing this part of the story,
Mhm.
made it aware to people that he was not a fan of like multiversal crossover events.
Mm,
And
mhm.
this is his version of trying to tackle that kind of story.
Mm.
And it's not really trying to linger too hard on like, oh, how big it is or oh, how much of an event this storyline is.
I mean, I get that
Uh
perspective, but like I think what they could have done is just have less marks and
okay.
then have like a few like 4 very honed in
Uh
conflicts. Cuz I think that to me would have been more impactful.
I see. Okay.
Cuz realistically we don't need like these extra marks doing damage in like fucking Rome or whatever in these like places. We could just have like a few marks pull up on like Cecil and Donald, one pull up on the Guardians, one pull up on fucking Mark and Eve and Oliver, and then another one somewhere else, and then really hone in on those conflicts.
Mhm.
And I feel like that to me would have been more impactful.
But you needed that many to fill up all the comic panels.
I don't know. Okay, this is coming from someone who doesn't write TV shows or comics,
Yeah.
so I'm not saying I could have done it better. That's just
Yeah, I
an
think I
idea.
think the marks that they featured the most though, they were given good amount of elaboration.
Yeah.
Like Mohawk Mark, Mask Mark, and the Caped Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very distinctive to me.
I mean, yeah, I'm not saying they're not distinctive. It's just like there's a lot of time wasted just like looking or like having to see what these other marks are doing because
Mhm.
like they have to be shown in some way.
Okay, but that panel when they're all standing over the ashes of all those cities, they come on.
Okay, that looks very good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna complain about it. I don't think it should have looked that good because it just felt like we were in a different show for like 30 seconds. Like it's too good for Invincible.
But is that really a criticism?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a bit jarring because especially, I mean, it's not really the show's fault, but on Prime there was an ad.
Oh yeah.
So we have the scene before and an ad, and all of a sudden we see that shot, and it looks so good compared to what we just saw.
Yeah.
That it's just like, it's jarring, but it still looks great. I don't know. It's weird because I think writing wise and like the story and everything's very good here. It's just I don't feel the sauce that I thought this arc would have.
Yeah, it's so weird talking about it with someone who doesn't also read, because it's like I knew this was coming and that this wasn't like stretched out or very lengthy event, so I knew it was going to be very brief. But I like it for that reason, because very well it could have been like a season-long conflict, but it's nice that we get this out of the way and see that the world and the universe can expand to this level.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I was saying before, like we really see that budget shine in this episode, starting this episode.
Yeah.
took long enough, but it was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm having all these complaints, but at the end of the day, I still really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
And everything else that's been in the season, despite my complaints.
Steven Yeun fucking kills it.
Oh yeah. No, I love how he like changes his voice. I guess subtly for some of them, but like obviously for the others.
Yeah.
Just to like add that extra layer to these other marks.
Yeah. And unrelated to the multi-marks, but the fight with Angstrom looked really good too.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, that's my favorite part of the episode.
Yeah.
It just looks great there. It's very intense. It's like what I felt during that fight is what I wanted to feel for the rest of the episode.
I see.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to the GOAT, Business Baby.
Oh my. No, Business Baby's alive.
Oh, he's alive?
Bro, Robert Kirkman, he confirmed that he's alive, bro.
Damn.
He survived. Thank God.
Well,
dude, now the Viltrumites can't do anything because Business Baby's alive.
After he got clapped by a mark.
Dude. I laughed so hard doing that. I'm sorry. That was really funny.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious. I wish he got killed.
Nah, bro, they need him. If they're gonna deal with the Viltrumites, they need Business Baby.
Yeah. You would think that this would be like the end kind of conflict for the season, but nope, we got more. The episode ends with him being confronted by another Viltrumite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what were your impressions seeing that Mark would have to face this next?
Dude, I was like, oh shit, like shit's gonna go down.
Yeah.
I was very excited to see it because like when Anissa comes in season 2, she's chill, you know?
Yeah.
Like obviously she still like whoops his shit, but like she's like, you need to like stick to your plan. But like when this guy comes in, you can feel like he's gonna fuck shit up. And he does. Really
good shot of his entire shadow just like encompassing Mark. And you can just feel like this guy's here.
Aura.
This guy's means business.
Yeah.
And they pull out Jeffrey Dean Morgan for this voice cast, which is very satisfying to see.
Glenn versus Negan part 2. Yeah. Dude, people were shitting on the voice cast when this came out. I did not understand it.
Yeah.
Like it felt so perfect for this character. And I guess those people were proven wrong when we got to episode 8.
Yeah.
We got to fully see his range and how he portrayed the character.
Yeah, because the actual episode, they add a lot of details and like traits to Conquest that aren't in the books, but that just make him such a more interesting and more intimidating force.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, this final episode it's close to being my favorite episode of the show.
Yeah.
It is great. It's basically just this nearly like half-hour long fight between Mark and Conquest. And Mark just pulling out everything he can to stop this guy because he's probably the most powerful person he's come across in his whole life. And
100%
in the show. Yeah. And we really see where the budget went here.
Yeah.
Because oh my God, this fight looks like it just looks so good. Like the shot where Conquest is coming down from the sky, we get that like camera like turn, or the shot when like they punch each other's arms
Yeah, there's
Oh
like
my
a
God.
handheld feel to this episode,
Yeah.
which has been
M-
missing.
missing from
And also,
the action previously.
tell me if you agree about this, but like the cartooniness of being animated,
Yeah.
like I feel like it's scared to go there at some points, but I feel
Here
like
it feels like anime.
yeah, you need those like very exaggerative, animalistic looking faces to communicate
Yeah.
like the fight, and I feel like they really prove themselves here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unfortunate it's only in this episode.
Which is why I hope they continue this. Obviously, not every episode can look like this, but
Yeah.
I hope for season 4 we can get more of these kind of fights that look this great and feel this good to watch.
Yeah, I'm not like an animation expert and like how it's all put together, but like I noticed a lot of shading
Yeah.
used a lot more this episode compared to others.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of questioning why we can't just at least throw that over.
Yeah. And you mentioned that earlier, but like the camera movement as well. Like I feel like that's a very important thing when it comes to animating fights. That
Yeah.
hasn't been really taken advantage of previously. But I hope the fact that they're using it here will mean that they'll use it more in the future.
Yeah, that almost
'Cause-
like continuous shot of Mark being decimated, cut to the city being blown back,
Yeah.
and right into Oliver joining the battle is like one of the best shots of the show.
Yeah, dude.
And I
It
was
just
like,
looks
wow.
so good.
Yeah.
And I really think we get a payoff to Mark and Eve's relationship here because they both sort of work together to take down Conquest. Eve has a great fight with Conquest. I mean, it's just so dynamic and so creative. Just the way she uses her powers to fight against him. And yeah, their relationship, like all the moments they spent on the roof, that made me roll my eyes. Like it really makes it worth it because like they go through a lot this episode.
Yeah.
And you actually feel the impact, especially with Eve's fake out death, which is like the 6th of this series. But
Yeah. It's one of my gripes with Invincible is
how many fake out deaths there are.
it is the Kirkman style of storytelling of like teasing conflict or like teasing a consequence that doesn't happen by the next issue, but I don't know.
Honestly, it works here because when she comes back and she shoots out that laser, dude, I was literally screaming at my computer's screen because I was so excited that she was fucking clutching for Mark.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely more believable with superhero characters that they can survive crazy, horrendous things.
Especially with her.
Yeah. And not like Walking Dead.
And dude, that shot where like before she comes back to life where it's like moving, you just see like Mark and Conquest like really tiny, just hitting each other over and over. That shot's so good. I was creeping my pants.
Yeah, and I'd say the end of the fight is where Steven Yeun is just this absolute voice like force.
Oh my
like,
God,
he is giving it his 1000%.
Yeah. Obviously there's that, but I think there's a lot of moments in this fight where Mark like feels pain. And you don't notice it because it's very realistic to how someone would react.
Yeah.
But it's just those subtle things that like when you take a step back and like really think about like what Steven Yeun's doing in the booth, it's like, damn, bro, like this guy's putting on a fucking performance.
This guy's actually getting beat up in the booth.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, and one of the best moments in the entire series is Mark absolutely bashing in Conquest's head.
Oh yeah.
Because he has no arms.
Yeah. Another great moment was Conquest's, I guess, monologue to Mark when he thinks he's won the fight. Which apparently is show original.
Yeah, show
I think
original.
was a great addition because it just adds this layer to his character that makes him like not just compelling because he's powerful, but compelling because he has this like internal conflict that explains why he is the way he is.
Yeah, and it's really strange almost because it's like he's aware of like a human side to himself, but he is bearing it and doesn't want to just you would think he would just change his ways, but nah, he's devoted to blood.
Yeah, because
beating the shit out of people.
Because it's all he knows, basically.
Yeah.
It's the only way he knows how to cope with his loneliness.
Yeah. And I'd say it's time for the complaint. My only major gripe with this episode, and it's another line cut. Or no, it's actually how they perform this line.
Mm.
So it's when Oliver is in the hospital and Mark visits him, and they're kind of talking about like the future.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark says, "I won't hesitate to kill them."
Mm.
And in the graphic novels, this is like major turning point for the story.
Yeah.
He's deciding that from this point on, like, I'm killing
Mm-hmm.
a motherfucker who's gonna come around and like
Hurt
beat,
my family,
hurt my
yeah.
family. And I feel like there was just not the same amount of impact in the show.
Okay, yeah.
And not that the delivery by Steven Yeun is like horrible, it's just read very casually.
Yeah.
And there's not the same kind of like emphasis like, oh, I will kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very valid complaint because that is basically the end of his entire arc
Yeah.
in this season.
And it's like adapted the same. Like episode ends that way, issue ends that way.
Yeah.
It's just that two very different like scales of impact.
Actually, the episode ends with the funeral for Rexplode.
No, like cut to credits.
Oh, really?
It's that line. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, well, speaking of the funeral, that is my one complaint.
Oh, wait, no, that's also another complaint. Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah. So from
It is really weird.
the amazing, visually spectacular fight that we got for about like 30 minutes, you would think, like, damn, they really went all out for this finale. Cut to funeral, and we got PNGs
Idle
at a
PNGs.
funeral.
And they're all like not even sad.
Yeah.
They're all just happy to be there.
Yeah.
Obviously that's an issue, but I think this is the first time like I guess writing wise where I felt very like I didn't like it. I didn't really like how the characters reacted to the situation. Obviously, like Robot taking his name like that, I get that because he's always been kind of a dick. But like I don't know, just the way like Mark handles it, like he's just grinning. And then like Eve is like says some weird shit like in her speech or whatever. It just felt very like I don't want to say not grounded because I guess this could happen in real life, people being insensitive at a funeral, but like I don't know, it just didn't feel right, especially for how much time they devoted to Rex being a great character. For them to send him off in this way just felt disrespectful, honestly.
I see.
And I don't know, I just want to cry here or something, but like the show's not letting me.
Yeah.
Like I want to feel the emotion of the fact that my goat is dead and I just can't because they don't want you to, I guess. I don't know.
No, I understand that complaint about this moment. And it doesn't help that visually you can't attach yourself to anything.
Yeah.
Because it's stiff as all hell. The show has never looked that stiff.
Dude, the crowd of PNGs around his casket.
Yeah, tragic. It's really sad.
It's sad in the way it shouldn't be. And it's not sad in the way it should be.
But yeah, post-credit wise, they give us classic like Invincible Rogues Gallery tease.
Yeah.
But they also tease a show original storyline.
Yeah.
Which I'm very intrigued about.
With Damien Darkblood.
Damien Darkblood.
Season 1 character.
Yeah. Everyone remembers him. No, I remember
I remember him too.
So yeah. Should be interesting stuff to come.
Yeah.
With the rest of the show.
I'm honestly just so excited to see where the show goes next. We've been complaining a lot, but honestly, like this season for me has been very consistent and has really been what I've wanted from this show.
Yeah.
And I can only just hope that it's up from here because there's still so much more to adapt. I mean, we're only 3 seasons in, and apparently there's going to be 8, if I'm not mistaken.
Total. I'd say like around there would be the right amount.
Yeah.
To adapt it all.
I'm pretty sure I read that there's going to be 8. I could be mistaken, but
yeah, I'll double
that
check
sounds good.
But yeah, this is easily one of my favorite parts of the story is the conclusion. Just that stretch between the Powerplex story to Conquest. It's just like this ultimate like builds on itself. Yeah. Which is what the show does best and what Kirkman does best.
I just think overall this season is my favorite because of its consistency. Because we start with Mark and Cecil. Yeah. We get what do we get?
The Oliver stuff.
Yeah. Right? And then we get the Nolan and Alan. And then we have 1 week episode with the the Titan guy.
Oh,
but that's one
Dragon.
week episode. But then we get Powerplex and then Invincible War and then Conquest. Like for me, this is a very airtight season.
Yeah.
The most it's been in the whole show.
And I hope they can keep this momentum going.
Yeah. And we have no Mauler twins except for when they die.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if they come back, they come back. But if they don't, goodbye and good riddance. Because they're so
no comment.
Boring. Okay.
But I will say, we got some great things to come in season 4.
That is good to hear.
And 5.
Mm-hmm. And 6.
And 6.
And 7. And
yeah. And the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Some better than others, but I'm speaking ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there when we get there in 2050.
Yeah, I'm going to be heading to my grave by the time the show wraps up.
No, it's so crazy. Like when this show started, I think I was like 13.
Wow.
And we were in the depths of quarantine. And now that we're here, I'm done with high school.
How old was I?
I think you were a senior in high school?
No.
You were a senior in high school, I remember.
No. I was like 16.
Really?
Yeah.
When this show started?
Yeah, 2021.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Like
and now
you're
I'm
like
a chopped 20-year-old.
Now you're most of the way through college.
Yeah. This show's going to be here forever.
But I'm glad like I finally have like a show where like I've been there from the start and I get to see it as I grow up.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had that yet in my life.
Yeah, it's been very fascinating to watch this knowing the entire story.
Honestly, I didn't think I'd ever get that in my life because shows nowadays are so based on like
success, notoriety.
No, I meant like
streams.
No, I meant more like shows nowadays are like so based on being limited and like it's rare to have a show that's like
so episodic
and like long lasting.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's give our ratings for season 3.
Yeah. I'm going to give season 3 a low 9 out of 10. Great
awesome.
season.
I would give it a very high 8. Could jump to a 9.
Yeah.
I feel like as much as I feel like I've been praising the comics and the show, I feel like my ratings seem low, but in show context, like it's very different. Like there are a lot of more things at play than just looking at the books. You know?
Yeah.
It's a weird place to be in.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And honestly, I've been complaining a lot, but to be completely honest,
can't help it.
Yeah, you can't help it. Just that critical brain of mine. But
autism brain.
All right,
we both have.
Yeah. And then but like a lot of these complaints I have don't affect my enjoyment. I mean, obviously they do, but not to a very great extent.
Yeah, like I can stomach when it's not the best animation. It's just unfortunate when you have some of the most delicious panels in the books being decimated.
And also when you have like some of the best voice acting and some of the best writing on TV, and then the animation's not on the same level. It is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, this isn't Sausage Party Foodtopia.
But when the animation does pull through, like in episode 8, it's so good.
Yeah,
whew,
that was Invincible.
That was Invincible so far.
And 100% we'll be back to talk about
season 4. And whatever seasons in the future.
And decades from now, we'll be here to talk about season 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a full series retrospective.
Oh my God. I don't even want to think about how old
we're gonna be like real adults by then.
In our 40s.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can hear it, but my energy is just depleted.
Yeah,
as this has gone on.
Yeah, we've been talking about Invincible for way too long.
But that was Invincible Mickey episode. We'll be back to talk about something sometime.
Probably music related because we haven't done that in a long time.
Oh wait, we got Panchiko coming up. No promises on dates, but we'll talk about that at some point.
Yeah.
And also Minecraft.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.